And welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and it's time for another deck tech. My first deck tech from Commander 2021. It's Adrix and Nev, Twin Casters, or should I say Adrix and Nev, Private Investigators. You know, when I first saw Adrix and Nev, I was like, okay, it's doubling tokens, boring. You know, that doesn't seem very exciting at all. But after I thought about it for a second, I was like, you double up any kind of token, right? So maybe there's a way we can build this deck. And there's actually an idea I've had for a while that this commander actually does suit that. You know, I've heard people say that this is just another busted Simic commander. I really don't think so. It doesn't seem that good. Doubling up tokens is okay. I wouldn't call it busted. I definitely would not be worried if someone across the table from me had Adrix and Nev. I think it will be popular, no question. Just like with Atraxa, because there's so many things you can do with counters on stuff. That's why Atraxa is so popular. One of the reasons. It's powerful, but also it's wide open, right? There's a lot of things you can do with that strategy. Adrix and Nev, same thing. I think it's going to be a really popular commander because there's a lot of directions you can go with that, you know, doubling of tokens. I don't consider it to be busted, though, by any stretch of the imagination. So what am I doing with the deck? I am investigating, which means I'm making clue tokens, right? The ability is when you investigate, you create a clue token, which is a artifact token, pay to sacrifice this artifact, draw a card, right? If there's anyone out there that hasn't seen the ability before, I really like clue tokens. It can get a little mana intensive, but I've always wanted to make a clue token / investigate deck, and now we have a commander that I think fits it perfectly. Obviously, we're going to have Doubling Season and Parallel Lives in this deck. You know, I imagine those cards are going to be even more expensive than they already are. They really need to reprint Parallel Lives. Even just with this set that just came out, there's a lot of token generators. And I imagine Parallel Lives, I think Doubling Season is already pretty expensive. Parallel Lives, I think, is going to skyrocket in price. Second Harvest, that's a sort of a one-shot. In a way, it's better, though. It's almost better than a Parallel Lives or a Doubling Season, because for each token you control, you create a copy of that permanent, right? So you're basically going to double it all at once. So if you have 5 tokens in play already, this can be even better. And it's all your tokens, right? So it's going to be our clue tokens. It's going to be also our other tokens, because we do have other token stuff in this deck as well. There isn't enough support to just build an investigate deck and then nothing else, right? So getting to the investigating, Tireless Tracker, obviously this is probably going to be one of the best, if not the best card in this deck. This is a card that it gets played in multiple formats. It played in landfall decks. It just goes in so many decks. You could put this in any deck. It's just a great value card, right? It's going to give you those clue tokens just for playing lands, which you normally would do anyway. It's just a fantastic card all around. It's definitely going to be one of the targets we look for early on with this deck. Ulvenwald Mysteries, though, is a good one. And this, you know, we want repeatable effects as much as we can with these clue tokens, right? Because we don't have a ton. So we want to get one of these out so we can start generating tokens over and over and over again, right? Ulvenwald Mysteries, 2 and a green enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, investigate. So that's going to be happening. You know, unfortunately, it's non-token, but we do have a lot. We got 25 non-token creatures in this deck. And then whenever you sacrifice a clue, you can put a 1/1 white human soldier creature token onto the battlefield. Not great, but it is a token, so it's going to get doubled by our commander. Trail of Evidence is great. This is another one, just like with Tireless Tracker, that I think you could put, if you're doing any sort of a Spellslinger deck, you could just throw this in there. You know, that new commander, the Is It one, Veyran, I think, that doubles instant and sorcery triggers. So this is definitely a card you can consider for that deck. Just like with Tireless Tracker, you're going to be doing that a lot anyway, and it's just giving you free value. It's just sitting there and giving you stuff. I love cards like that. Briar Bridge Patrol. This is an interesting one. 3 and a green human warrior 3/3. When Briar Bridge Patrol deals damage to one or more creatures, investigate. So probably we're going to say this is a blocker. We don't want to risk losing it because that second ability I think is a little more important. At the beginning of each end step, if you sacrifice 3 or more clue tokens this turn, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. That's pretty good. However, sacrificing 3 clue tokens, that costs 6 mana, right? So how often is that going to happen? Well, it's going to be happening a little bit more because we have Tamiyo's Journal in this deck as well. And this is a combo that when I played Modern, I was trying to put this combo in a deck because I thought it was really good. Tamiyo's Journal is a 5-mana artifact that's going to give us a clue token on all of our upkeeps, which is great. And then we can tap to sacrifice 3 clue tokens, search your library for a card, and put that card into your hand. So it's a tutor. This is, again, it's another card that you can just put in any deck. It's just good value. If you manage to get to 3 clue tokens, you can tutor with it. In this deck, getting to 3 clue tokens is super easy, obviously. So it's going to be, you know, an all-star in this deck. But I think it combos really well with Briar Bridge Patrol, right? Because Briar Bridge Patrol, at the beginning of the end step, it's going to check if you sacrifice 3 clue tokens. Normally that would cost 6 mana, but with Tamiyo's Journal, we're just tapping it, right? So that automatically fulfills that trigger, right? And to make matters even better, we can go get a big creature out of our deck with our Tamiyo's Journal, right? So we can go get a Terastodon with Tamiyo's Journal out of our library, and then on our end step, our Briar Bridge Patrol will trigger, and we can just throw it directly into play. I'm not going to name all of the clue stuff. We do have a bunch more. There is quite a bit in blue and green. I will say ongoing investigation, though, that's one that I've really been trying to put in a deck for a long time. 1 in a blue enchantment. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, investigate. So that's good. And for that reason, I actually did put a lot of creatures in this deck. And if you look at the deck list, you'll see there are lots of creatures in here that we want to be connecting with that are just good creatures, like Okame Adversary, for example. Just a good creature anyway, but it also sort of suits the ongoing investigation. And then also 1 in a green, you can exile a creature card from your graveyard to investigate and gain 2 life. So this is going to be, again, one of our best clue token generators, I think, in the deck. Talking about creatures that we want to be connecting with, I put Malcolm Keen-Eyed Navigator in the deck. Whenever 1 or more pirates you control deal combat damage to your opponents, you create a treasure token for each opponent dealt damage. We don't really have any pirates in the deck. In fact, we only have 1 other, but this just connects and gives us 2 treasure tokens. I think that's pretty good. Again, we want to be connecting to fulfill our ongoing investigation. But on top of that, this is going to give us 2 treasure tokens every time it hits an opponent. I think that's pretty good. I also have Thran Turbine in the deck. Just mentioned this in my 10 cards video. Another way to use it, right? It can get mana intensive. Having all those clue tokens sitting around, I've seen lots of people with a Tireless Tracker in their landfall deck, and they're playing lands and they're getting lots of clue tokens, and they just sit there, and because they're doing lots of other stuff, they don't actually crack them, so it doesn't do anything. This is going to give us 2 free mana on our upkeep, so that way we're at least guaranteed to sacrifice 1 of our clue tokens and draw a card every turn. So this basically becomes, at the beginning of our upkeep, we draw a card. Also, I think we need other ways to deal with those clue tokens. So I have Sage of Lat-Nam and Shimmer Dragon. Both of these are going to get us card draw without being so mana intensive. Sage of Lat-Nam, we can just sacrifice an artifact to draw a card. So instead of paying the 2 and sacrificing it to draw a card, we just tap, draw a card, so it saves us the mana. And then Shimmer Dragon, 4 blue dragon. You don't see too many mono blue dragons. 5/6 flyer. As long as you control 4 or more artifacts, Shimmer Dragon has hexproof. That's almost a guarantee, you know, so this thing's probably going to have hexproof. And then we're going to tap 2 of our untapped clue tokens, and we're going to draw a card with it. So again, without having to use the mana, we can use those clue tokens to draw us cards. And then we have some other cards that are just fantastic in the deck because we are doubling up our tokens. Nadir Kraken's going to be fantastic. 1 blue, 2/3 Kraken. Whenever you draw a card, you may pay 1. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on Nadir Kraken and create a 1/1 blue tentacle creature token. So this fits in a couple of different ways. Remember, those clue tokens are drawing us cards. So we are going to get lots of draw triggers, which is going to trigger our Nadir Kraken all the time. Also, it's making tokens, so we get double the tentacle tokens as well. So I think it fits for both of those reasons. Chasm Skulker, same thing. Chasm Skulker wants us to be drawing lots, and also when it dies, it's going to make blue squid creature tokens with Island Walk, and with our commander out, we get double those. Hull Breacher, I mean, that's probably going to go in the deck no matter what. You know, it's just a good card anyway, but it is going to give us double the treasure tokens now with our commander in play. And also it is that other pirate I was talking about. This would be the one, right? Rampage of the Clans fits perfectly in this deck, I think. 3 and a green. Instant. Destroy all artifacts and enchantments for each permanent destroyed this way. Its controller creates a 3/3 green centaur creature token. This can be good in a lot of ways. You know, I don't really see this in Commander much. I think this card was clearly printed for Commander specifically, and I really don't see it much. You know, you think about the situation where your opponents don't really have a lot of artifacts and enchantments. Okay, well then why are you casting this then, right? What about the situation where your opponents have lots of artifacts and enchantments? Okay, then it's better, but now you're giving your opponents like 8 3/3 Centaur creature tokens, so that's not great either. So I think that's why a lot of people don't play it. In this deck though, it's fantastic for 2 reasons. Actually, for 3 reasons. Reason number 1, we're going to get double the tokens. Everyone, let's say, gets 3 Centaur tokens. We're going to get 6. It's going to be doubled up. The other reason is, again, we can use those clue tokens. If we don't need to draw cards, we just have a bunch of clue tokens sitting around. Basically, what we're doing is we're turning those clue tokens into 3/3 green Centaur creature tokens. 2 of them, in fact, right? If our commander's in play, for every 1 clue token, we get 2 3/3 Centaurs. That's pretty fantastic. And the third reason is another combo that I talk about in one of my combos video, which is Crafty Cutpurse and Rampage of the Clans. And Crafty Cutpurse is a card I think that fits in this deck really well anyway, especially because of all the treasure token stuff starting to come out, and especially because of all of the tokens in this set. Really, I think this is a card that probably should get played more. I just think it's a great combo with Rampage of the Clans, right? And because it has flash, and because Rampage of the Clans is an instant, we can do this on our opponent's end step. It is 8 mana, that's a lot, okay? However, we flash in the Crafty Cutpurse, then we Rampage of the Clans, and we destroy everyone's artifacts and enchantments, and then we get, what, 12 3/3 tokens? And if our commander's out, that's 24. Like, that can be just the game is over. Like, that is really good. So I think it's definitely a combo that fits in this deck. And then Tendershoot Dryad, I mean, come on. There's a few cards in this deck that are just really good cards on their own, and they just become fantastic with our commander, right? Just getting 2 green sapling creature tokens on everyone's upkeep. We're going to get that ascendancy really fast, I imagine, especially with all of the tokens we have in play. I like Treasure Map. I just love this card. It just sits there, it scries, then you flip it. It gives you 3 treasure tokens, which are going to be 6. So getting 6 treasure tokens, that's significant. But more importantly, the backside is, it's a land and it can sacrifice a treasure to draw a card. We do have a lot of treasure token effects in here, so this can just be a great card draw device. Speaking of which, we got Spell Swindle. Again, 5 mana instant, counter target spell, create X treasure tokens, where X is the spell's converted mana cost. So, we counter a 7 or an 8. This is 7 or 8 treasure tokens, but again, with our commander out, that's going to be 14 or 16 treasure tokens. That's massive. And then I got Cackling Counterpart. Create a token that's a copy of a target creature you control. I just love this card. I think this is another card that you could probably put in any deck. Because it's at instant speed, say someone's about to kill your commander, you just make a token copy of your commander. And then obviously the legendary rule applies, so you just sacrifice the one that's going to die anyway. It can be used on ETB creatures, right, to get that ETB effect again. I have it in my Tishana deck for that reason. But we're going to get double the effect here, right? You can do more of this. This is the only one I put in the deck. Again, this is why I think Adrix and Nev is going to be a really popular commander. You really can just go this route, the I create token copies of my creatures route, a lot more, and you will get double the effect. I have Hour of Need, and this is an interesting one. I talked about Curse of the Swine, and I have that in the deck. I think it's a fantastic, one of my favorite blue creature removal spells. This one is similar. So 2 and a blue. Instant. It has Strive. Hour of Need costs 1 and a blue more to cast for each target beyond the first. You exile any number of target creatures. For each creature exiled this way, its controller puts a 4/4 blue Sphinx creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So maybe this is like Rampage of the Clans, where people look at it and go, man, it's great that you can exile a bunch of your opponent's creatures, but giving them a 4/4 flyer that's a bit much. However, in this deck, we can use it on ourselves, right? We can play our Reclamation Sage and destroy someone's artifact and enchantment, and then that card's just sitting there. It's useless to us, so we can pay 3 mana, and remember, it's an instant, so we can exile our Reclamation Sage, and because we are creating a token, we're going to get 2 4/4 blue Sphinx tokens with flying. That's pretty fantastic for 3 mana. And we can use it on our opponents, right? We can do either. And then I just threw Kiora, Best the Sea God in here. Just a fantastic card, right? But it's going to create an 8/8 blue Kraken creature token with hexproof. I just think, man, 2 8/8 hexproof creatures, that's pretty damn good. So, and then of course all the other things on Kiora, Best of Sea God are also pretty fantastic. So that's pretty much the decks. That is Adrix and Nev. PIs is mostly a clue, investigate deck. That's the strategy. I've been wanting to make a deck like that for a while. So I went mainly with that. You're probably always going to have at least one permanent out that is creating you clue tokens. and then a whole bunch of other stuff that I think just really neat things that fit really well in an Adrix and Nev deck. So that is it for today, and thanks for tuning in.